Halo sobat kreator, apa kabar kalian? Video kali ini sedikit special edition karena saya dan tim akan mencoba sesuatu yang berbeda. Ya, kami akan menggunakan bahasa Inggris dalam penyampaian alur film. Kali ini tim Creator Film Channel akan merangkum satu film yang rilis pada tahun 2015 yang berjudul Run All Night. Film ini dibintangin aktor film Taken yang juga sempat main satu film sama saya, di mana pada film itu saya jadi pemain figuran, yaitu si Liam Neeson. Sebelum kita mulai ke video, nah buat kalian yang pengen menjadi content creator yang membuat konten spoiler dan rangkuman film seperti kita, tapi masih bingung gimana caranya, nah tim Creator Film akan membuka open class nih buat kalian. Open class ini ditujukan buat para pemula agar bisa sukses di dunia YouTube ini. Nah, buat kalian yang tertarik, kalian bisa chat langsung aja ke nomor WhatsApp yang ada di sini nih. Dan tenang aja, dengan harga yang terjangkau, tim Creator Film Channel akan membimbing kalian sampai memiliki basic untuk terjun di dunia YouTube. Oke, karena openingnya sudah kelamaan, kulihat kalian sudah ngantuk, mari kita gaskan intronya. The movie will focus around Jimmy Conlon. After spending most of his life loyal with his Irisma best friend Sean Maguire by doing his dirty work, he's now haunted by his past and become angry and drunk person. One day, he met Sean's son Danny Maguire, asking for the money to repair something, and Danny asked him to be in Santa in a Christmas party that will happen in his house. Jimmy himself has a son named Michael Conlon. We call him Mike. Mike is a retired professional boxer who right now working as a chauffeur. Mike himself also mentoring many kids at gym nowadays, and Lex is one of his students. He lives with his pregnant wife and his two child. But apparently, Mike hated his father so much, as he sick with Jimmy's action in the past, and Mike never allowed Jimmy to involve in his happy life. The next night, Danny bring one of Albanian gangster to his father in order to ask Sean's help for letting them sell heroin in his territory. Sean, not intrigued by the offer, rejected and asked that gangster to walk away. But unfortunately, the Albanians already paid Danny a lot of money. See how it fails? The Albanians demands Danny to return what belongs to theirs. Back to Jimmy, after failing his job as a Santa, he actually scared that kids there. He have a pep talk with Sean telling how sorry he is and he still hears voices for every victim he ever killed. And after it, he met Detective Harding from the police department. Harding demanded to Jimmy to surrender and tell the truth about every victim he was killed, to give closure for every family victim who's still wanting for answer. Meanwhile, the next day, Mike has a job to drive the two Albanian creditors into Danny's house. While that Albanian's inside, Mike's waiting and suddenly see Lex who begged Mike to let him sit in the limousine. But sadly, everything goes awry there. Inside the house, instead paying his debt, Danny double-crossed the Albanians and with his friend, he shot one of them. One of the Albanians still got a chance to run, but Danny followed him outside. Just as that survived Albanians find his way back to the limo, Danny cruelly shot him. And that scene recorded on the Lex phone. Caught in the middle of a dangerous situation, Mike asks Lex to get down and run when he has a chance. The alerted Danny then saw Mike and tried to kill him. Lex took this chance to run away. Now Mike must fight alone to survive from Danny's wrath. After a very exhausting run, he escaped that violent attack. Danny, now afraid for what he did, asks for his father's help shortly after he found out that Mike is the son of Jimmy Conlon. And Mike calling his wife, who's in her brother's house, to stay there and not coming back for a while. Just as Sean requested on phone, Jimmy visits his son after years. It's been clear at the beginning that Mike has this hatred with his father. Jimmy requests Mike to not tell the police or expose Danny for the crime he just did. But Mike refuses it and asks Jimmy to walk away. Just as Jimmy wants to get out, Danny comes with his friends there, planning to murder Mike and shut him up for good. But thankfully, Jimmy spotted Danny's car there and shortly walked back inside. As he found Dennis about to shot his son in the head, Jimmy pulled the trigger and shot Danny right on his neck. Danny shortly died after that. Jimmy called Sean and reluctantly told him that his son was already gone. There's a true pain in Sean's eyes. And he said to Jimmy there will be a consequences for the action he just did. Still panicked and angry, Mike extruded his father out and decided to call the police for help. He explained in the 911 call that it was self-defense. Then the two policemen arrived and Mike tries to explain what happened. But it turns out the cop is a corrupt one and plans to take Mike to Sean. Luckily, Jimmy is still there and he chased the police car that took his son away. On a fairly busy street, Jimmy tried to stop the police car by jamming it and occasionally running into it. The chase continued and even involved a gunfire, until finally the police car lost control and flipped over and crashed in front of a shop. Jimmy quickly saves Mike and is about to take him away. However, one of the policemen gets up and wants to shoot them, but Jimmy quickly shoots the cop. The chase wasn't over yet because Sean's members were chasing them at the train station. At first, they almost managed to escape until this happens.
I'm not gonna back off. Stole my fare.
And causing them to separate. Mike tried to avoid Sean's gang member and the police at the same time. He managed to divert their attention by getting into a train. Meanwhile, Jimmy had a fight with one of Sean's loyal member, Frank, in the bathroom. After Jimmy won the fight, he tried to escape but also looking for Mike, who mysteriously gone. Thankfully, Mike called him and asked him to go into a train just before the train leaves. We're back to Sean. He planned to frame Mike for the murder of two Albanians gang, and his plan succeeded. Both Jimmy and Mike becoming the most wanted people as their faces appear in the national television. In this very intense situation, Jimmy asked Mike to listen to him just for one night, and Jimmy asked Mike to go to his brother-in-law's house to stay hiding with his family until he heard a word from Jimmy. Sean, still mourning with the loss of his son, murdered one of Danny's friends in a very cold-blooded method. After hearing the news, Detective Harding worked hard to find Jimmy and Mike, but suddenly he received a call from Jimmy, begging Harding to protect his son and convince him that Mike did nothing wrong. Harding said there's a possibility for him to help Mike, but for one condition. Jimmy must give Harding all the list of people he murdered and agree to spend his life punished in jail. In his brother-in-law's house, Mike came in, convincing his wife that he do nothing wrong. But then they trapped in an intense situation when Sean's gang member came there looking for them. But thankfully, they can handle the situation. Jimmy meets Sean and tells him that it was Danny who was about to kill Mike, and that he might have to speak to the NYPD about his criminal past. Sean said that the cops care nothing for Jimmy's information and tells Jimmy he will kill Mike and his family in revenge. Then Sean will let Jimmy die. After running away from Sean's gang member, Jimmy meets Mike. Jimmy tells him to bring his family to a cabin near the woods. Mike agreed, but he refused to go with his family. Why? Because Mike wants to look for Lex. Because Lex has a footage of Danny shooting the Albanians gang. With that footage, he can prove his innocence. Jimmy agreed to go with Mike to find Lex. Meanwhile, Sean hired a professional hitman named Price to kill both Jimmy and Mike. Price himself feels very honored to do that job. Jimmy and Mike then went to the apartment where Lex lives, but they don't know the exact location, so they have to knock one by one the door in the apartment. Unfortunately, a resident of the apartment recognized them and called the police. Thanks to that, Price finally found out the location of Jimmy and Mike, and he walked towards the place. After walking floor by floor, Jimmy and Mike find Lex's apartment, but he's not there. Mike and Jimmy are shocked that the police have surrounded the place. The police quickly evacuated the building, but one of the residents of the apartment forgot to turn out the stove, which was cooking something. Price himself infiltrated the evacuated building and turned out the building's electrical current. Jimmy and Mike take this opportunity to escape, but at the same time, the stove, which was on earlier, exploded, setting up a fire in the apartment. When trying to escape through stairs, Price, who used infrared vision, starts shooting at Jimmy and Mike. The apartment becomes crowded and noisy. Jimmy tells Mike to run away while he tries to fight Price alone by himself. Until finally, Jimmy makes Price's face burn. But when Price is weak in pain, Mike suddenly stands behind Price, planning to shoot him. Jimmy forbids Mike to shoot, cause he didn't want Mike to turn into a murderer like him. Fortunately, the police came. Jimmy and Mike tried to run and Price shot the police there. Now, Jimmy and Mike must escape from Detective Harding pursuing. They manage to escape, but in that incident, Jimmy is shot in the shoulder. Jimmy then invites Mike to go to his brother Eddie's house, to hide there for a moment. The two hide at the house of Jimmy's brother Eddie. An incensed Eddie reveals that Jimmy is loyal only to Sean. He once killed his own cousin Billy to prevent him testifying against Sean. Disgusted and unwilling to trust his father, Mike returned to his family. Jimmy, now really pissed and angry, called Sean and forced him to stay away from his family. After hearing Sean refusing him, Jimmy came to his place and killed every of his gang member. Sean managed to escape at first, but Jimmy followed him and shot him multiple times until one bullet hit his stomach. Sean, now almost weak from the bloodlust, still tried to escape, but Jimmy tells Sean that everything is over. Jimmy then shot Sean one more time, and Sean died in that process, right on Jimmy's arm. At the same moment, Lex comes to Detective Harding's service. Lex gives Harding the footage where Danny murdered the second Albanians. To confirm the video, Harding asks forensic to check the ballistic on Danny's gun to see its match with victim's body. After writing all of his murder victim on the paper, Jimmy visits Mike in the cabin. Mike alerts Jimmy that the police are on the way there, but Jimmy said he's too old to run away, and it's time for him to turn himself to the police. In this situation, Mike, after being forced by his wife Gabriella, finally introducing Jimmy to his two grandchildren. Mike then takes his family to out near the river, so the kids don't saw the police when all of them came. Jimmy sees the collage photos of Mike and his family and smiles seeing it. Mike, seeing his father alone in the house, then decides to return, but suddenly Price came and starts shooting in the cabin. In this very intense situation, Jimmy immediately took the weapon he had stored and hide and began to pull the trigger to attack Price. Gabriella, who heard the shot, immediately hid with her children and brother. An intense situation occurs, especially when Price finds out Mike is there. Until finally, Price shoots Jimmy and he lies weak on the ground, don't know what to do anymore, and is about to pass away. Price shot his gun multiple times to Mike, who apparently has run out of bullets. Seeing his son in danger, Jimmy trying hard to get up. He loaded the gun while holding very much pain, and just as Price was about to shoot Mike in the head, Jimmy fired a bullseye shot to Price's head and immediately killed him. Mike came to Jimmy, who's sitting there next to the tree, dying. And in the final second before his father's death, Mike finally called him Dad. Jimmy then died by holding a paper that listed every people he ever killed. And after that, Detective Harding and the police came. Harding told that he already know that Mike is not guilty. At the end of the movie, Mike is back working as a boxing trainer and a chauffeur, and living happily with his wife and daughters. He looked wistfully at the photo of himself and Jimmy from long ago before heading to work. Oke sobat kreator, begitulah alur cerita dari film Run All Night. Sangat sedih endingnya sehingga saya dapat menyimpulkan, hargailah ayah kandung kalian selagi masih hidup, karena jika kalian sudah kehilangan ayah kalian, kalian akan sedih dan merasa hampa. Anyway, gimana bahasa Inggris saya? Kalau sedikit lenje dan manja sehingga membuat kalian muntah, saya mohon maaf sebesar-besarnya ya. Anyway, terima kasih sudah menonton video ini. Jangan lupa untuk klik tombol like, subscribe, dan share sebanyak-banyaknya video ini kepada teman, kerabat, dan saudara kalian. Jangan lupa juga nih buat nyalakan lonceng notifikasinya sehingga kalian tidak akan ketinggalan video-video kami selanjutnya. Dan jangan lupa juga untuk follow Instagram Kreator Film Channel, itu ada di sini, dan juga Facebooknya ya, itu ada di sini. Akhir kata, saya Adit beserta tim Kreator Film pamit undur diri. Terima kasih dan sampai jumpa di video selanjutnya.